Oh, God. Every freaking time. Happy New Year. My God. What a way to start the new year. I'm recording this on New Year's Day. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, hi, hi. How are y'all doing? Let's reset that. Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome to the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, how are y'all doing? Hopefully well. Hopefully your new year is off to a fantastic start. It's been a pretty young year so far. We're fairly fresh in it. Not much has probably happened. Hopefully not too much. Unless it's been good stuff, then let it all go crazy. Let's have a lot of good stuff happening. But hopefully it's just been a really relatively uneventful start to the new year. And hopefully your end of 2024 was good and not bad. We don't need to end the year badly. But if you do, you can at least look forward to the fact that New Year's just around the corner. And by just around the corner, I mean right here. Because it's 2025, and you got to keep saying it's 2025 so that you remember it's 2025 and you don't write on your checks. For the people who still write checks, 2024. No, it's 2025. Remember, it's 2025. Remember the 5 in 2020, because if you don't, you'll write 2024 and you'll fuck up everything. But I am your host, Mark Kuznez, and I've got some games to talk about. Not much news, because it's pretty quiet during these last few weeks of the year. Maybe things will start heating up as the new year starts. But for me, at least, we have exciting news to talk about. The official real return to streaming will be happening tonight, which would be or will be yesterday for you listening, because I'm starting it tonight, the 1st, aka Wednesday, with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I figured I enjoyed Fallen Order overall. You can check out the 2 Attack the Backlog episodes for that now. They are both live for your listening or viewing pleasure. And I don't need to wait. I don't need to put in this faux fake period of breakage. Man, the words are just bouncing all over the place and not coming out of the mouth the way I want them to. But I don't need to break up things and keep some kind of false requirement, obligation of variety in terms of what I'm putting out there. If I want to play 3 games in the same series back to back to back, that's what I'm going to do. This is about me getting through my backlog, playing the games I want to play, or in the case of second runs, replaying the games I want to play. So why force myself to move away from a series if I'm really liking it, or play something that I don't want to in that moment in time? It might just be the wrong time and place to play something, and then I'll end up not liking it because I forced myself to play when I knew it wasn't the right time, but I wanted to spice things up, or I felt that there was some other reason, whether it's getting a sequel coming out soon. So, hey, let me play this game that I don't really want to play now, but it's kind of relevant again, so I'll play that. No. And I want to play Survivor. I want to see how they hopefully build upon the strong foundation of Fallen Order, fix up some of the issues I had with it, and continue that story that I started to care more about as I played more. Never really gave a shit about Cal Kasten, whatever his name is, but I did start to become interested in his crew, specifically the Night Sister, was it? That joins the crew later in the game, who you don't get to spend that much time with because she joins fairly late in the game. So that is going to be happening tonight, tomorrow for you, if you're listening on the day this comes out, potentially further in the past. But those archives will be on Twitch for however long that they are on Twitch. I don't know how long archives last on Twitch. That is twitch.tv/pxsausage. But in addition to that, the return of the anime podcast is sooner than later. I don't want to say it's going to be the first Tuesday of 2025, but the way I'm looking at schedules and how I want to space everything out, as much as I want the stupid, punny nature of a release in Monday so that I could say my anime podcast comes out on a Monday, I don't know if that makes as much sense in terms of spacing out content when you have Attack the Backlog, and when Second Runs returns, they'll be alternating on Sunday, so they'll be releasing on Sunday. You have this show, the Pixelated Sausage Show, coming out on Thursday. Should I have something coming out Sunday and Monday and then nothing till Thursday? Or should I have it be Sunday, break on Monday, Tuesday, break on Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, you get another little break? That just makes sense. As much as I love doing things for the dumbest reasons, like naming my, at the time, very video game centric website, and still to this day, it's very video game centric mostly. But naming it Pixelated Sausage, did that make a lot of sense? Does it still make a lot of sense? No, but I did it and I stuck with it, and here we are. But I have plans to bring it back sooner than later. Again, maybe not immediately, but I would say within a month's time, ideally, if everything goes according to plan, no hiccups in any space, whether it be work, personal life, etc., that'll return as well. I want to start Bleach as a part of that, finally. And maybe I'll start it with my finishing of Brian, I forget the exact pronunciation, but this very, very highly praised anime of last year at some point. It's somewhat recent, but I'm catching up with it now because just became aware of it recently for some reason or another. Maybe I was just perusing the Analyst Top 100 and saw that there as one of the things I haven't seen and said, hey, I should probably check this out. And it's been quite good. I have 10 episodes left. It's a 28 episode first season about a mage, an elf mage who is just going around doing odd jobs here and there, building up a small little crew currently of young adults. But she is just trying to collect various spells and learn more. She was part of a group of adventurers who defeated the Demon Lord 30 years ago at this point. Or it's 30 years post the death of one of the party members who she was close with. I think that might have been 50 years after the defeating of the Demon Lord. So about 80 years past that. Runs into demons here and there, and so on, but it's a slice of lifey type of show with fantastical elements and combat here and there, where you're following one of the adventurers who is doing what they want to do post defeating the big bad. And you don't see a lot of stories about the after of defeating the big bad. A lot of shows are about building up to eventually fighting and defeating the big bad, but what happens to your adventurers, your heroes, after that? So that's what it's about in many ways, but there are other elements too. And I'm really enjoying it. Took a little bit of time for it to really grow on me. I was enjoying it relatively early on. But then around episode 11 or 12, that's when it really started to click, and it went from, I think early on I had it about a 7, and and then I bumped it up to an 8, and then 11 or 12. It's like, okay, we're in 9 territory. I don't think, unless it really blows me away in these last 10 episodes, it'll reach 10 territory, but it could. It could. My most recent, or my last 10, was Mashal, Muscles and Magic. I believe that is the title. It could be Magic and Muscles, but not sure. Adore that show. I think when I originally scored it, I gave it a 9, and then I thought more about it. I'm like, no, this is a 10 for me. I would rewatch this immediately. I love it so much, and I can't wait for another season. That's clearly 10 territory. But I have plans to bring that back soon, so you can get more stuff like that, and in a specified place, so that all you people who were listening to that just now are skipped ahead because you don't give a shit about anime, you don't have to deal with that. And people who really like anime, they don't have to deal with all the other bullshit I talk about. They don't fucking care about video games. They don't need to listen to that. So that'll be exciting. And other than that, nothing much else to report, I don't think. I do want to try and be more succinct when talking about games on this particular podcast, which would leave more time for me to just ramble on here in the opening and talk about news that matters to me. Mainly because if it's a game that, because these are all about my first impressions and how those first impressions went in terms of, did it make me want to play more, or did it make me bounce off and say, I'm good? There's nothing here that's hooked me. I don't really need to belabor the point on games that don't grab me. I can just say why they didn't grab me, maybe give a general idea of what the game is, and just tell you why it didn't work for me. Why belabor that point, especially when I don't really have that much to say about it. I can't comment on how it might change after a few hours or more hours, because it's not a review, it's a preview, it's a first impression. Reviews and that type of stuff are for Attack the Backlog. And I also think that no one really wants to hear people talk about it. It's much more interesting, much more fulfilling, not rewarding, but it's just more valuable to hear people talk about things they love with enthusiasm and excitement than things they're just not really feeling. That's not to say that on Attack the Backlog, for instance, I'm ever going to not talk about things I don't like, because that's clearly, that happens plenty of times. But on this show, I think it just makes more sense to focus on the things that did grab me and just touch upon the things that didn't enough. If that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. So yeah, that's a thing I want to be a little bit better at doing. And speaking of that, what I have to talk about today are the games Wildfrost, Neon Blood, Universe for Sale, Smells Like a Mushroom, The Legend of Cyber Cowboy, and this other game I forgot to play, which is Self-Delusion, but I'm not expecting a whole lot from Self-Delusion, simply because I looked at it and it is a first-person survival horror type game from Sometimes You, who is a prolific publisher of smaller games that are in that easy achievement space, where they also release multiple versions of them on the various console platforms and PC as well. So on Xbox, you can get the achievements on Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC. I believe they do the PC ones as well. Maybe not, because it's becoming more common too to see from certain developers and publishers on the store to release a game version for multiple consoles, and then at the same time, or maybe a little bit later, release a bundle that includes all of them for a slightly discounted price, which I find a little annoying, just in that if they are planning to do that, do it all at once. Don't release the bundle a little later. That seems a little scummy. But yeah, let us just start with the first game mentioned, Wildfrost, which is the one game here that really grabbed me and pleasantly surprised me. I was hopeful for it, but I wasn't sure if it would do what I needed it to do or not. It is a deck building game with a very common structure like a Slay the Spire or any other similar game where you are going on runs and every now and again the path you're on will branch and you can go down one of two paths. I've never seen a branch with 3 paths so far. I've only beaten the first boss and gotten to the second area, and I don't remember if I got to the second boss or if I did something stupid because I wasn't paying attention, because I'm still learning the game and all of its different systems and making sure to pay attention to all the various details so that I know what's going on. But it has that similar structure of going down a path. It'll occasionally branch. You can see what's on the branching path. Do you want to fight in a battle and then get this specific reward, potentially find a new companion, go to the shop, or do you want to go this way, open a treasure, etc. And then it also has this Rogue Legacy element of each run you are picking one of 3 random heroes that each have some kind of little buff to them, whether it is they heal themselves a little bit whenever they kill an enemy or stuff like that. And every time you fail a run, you do that again, and you have a little logbook that keeps track of all of your previous heroes, which you can rename to give it some kind of personalization to yourself, which is fun as well. But the way the gameplay works is that you have your hands and all that, but there are 2 lanes, and you can place. You start the match by placing your main companion, who if they die you lose. That is who you have to protect. You place them on the playing field, and then you'll draw your deck of cards. They will have cards that you can use and companion cards. At the start you can only hold, I think it is 3 companions in your active deck. You can have ones in reserve on the bench, and then as you go to shops you'll find abilities that allow you to, or I think I got the ability when I beat the first boss, to have 4 active companions. And your companions, you put them on the field as well, and they will do what they do. The way companions work is that after each turn, there's a timer on them for their actions, and after each turn, the timer will go down by 1. Turns happen after 1 use. So unlike other games where you have a deck and then you can either play as many of those cards as you can during your turn, or you have a certain number of action points that allow you to play the cards that you maybe have 3 action points, and you have a card that costs 1 and one that costs 2. You play those 2 and then you go to the next turn. No, every action is a singular thing. You just have 1 action per turn, whether it be placing a companion or using a card that will do damage to an opponent or buff one of your companions or anything of that nature. And you have these 2 lanes where if one lane is empty, the cards in that lane will attack the other lane. So it's not like they will attack nothing. So there isn't some kind of advantage to keeping a lane empty so that the cards on the opposing side in that lane will do nothing to no one. They'll just divert to the full lane. But if there is a card in the lane that the opposing team is in, they will attack that first. They will take priority. So there's strategy there. And then there's strategy with the timer, where a big part of it too is utilizing snow in the form of snowballs, often in the basic cards, but other cards that will give you this bonus as well, where you can freeze a player's a companion, a card's timer, so that it won't keep going down until it's unfrozen. And there's a lot of strategy here. There are ways in which you can utilize things like having a card that will do double damage to a card that is frozen, but you have to make sure that when you freeze a card, that companion that does that double damage, that their timer is going to be down at the same time so that they will attack when the card is still frozen. And it just has a nice bit of strategy to it. It has a beautiful aesthetic. The art style is fantastic. It's immediately inviting. It's on Game Pass as well. Should have mentioned that at the top. So if you want to check it out and you are on Xbox, there you go. You don't even have to worry about it. If you're on Game Pass, got Xbox, give it a shot. But it looks great. It is a little clunky to control at first because when I want to get to my hand, there are times where I am messing with the top lane because it's 2 lanes, and I'm messing with the top lane and I want to go down to my hand, but then I have to press it twice or maybe sometimes even 3 times. And I wish there was just a button I can press to immediately go down to my deck as opposed to having to scroll down a little bit. But for the most part, it controls well with the gamepad. It is 100% a game I look at and while playing immediately think this would feel so much better on a tablet, on an iPad, being able to use touch controls. But I really liked the handful of runs I have played through so far. I played it for about an hour and a half. And I am excited to play more. It was a very pleasant surprise. I thought I was just going to play it for maybe a half hour, dabble in it, see what it was like, and move on. But it grabbed me and made me want to keep playing. I could have kept playing after the hour and a half, but I wanted to check out a few other games. That is Wildfrost. Highly recommend it. And again, on Game Pass, so if you are a Game Pass subscriber, you can check it out. No hassle. Do it. I highly recommend it. Next, we have Neon Blood, which is this 3D pixel art detective RPG point-and-click adventure type of thing that I bounced off of after an hour because it was so fucking tedious to begin in a way that really started to piss me off. There is RPG combat and I experienced a very little bit of it, but it was super basic. You have attack, defend, items that you can use, and skills that are more than just basic attacks. It may get more complicated later down the road, or maybe the skills make it more interesting, but at first blush, it was super fucking basic. And then the real issue, though, it looks great. I love the pixel aesthetic, and I like the way it works in a 3D space. But the problem was, and why I bounced off it, is that it opens with you checking this murder where some guy has had their arms cut off, and it was done by this red samurai or something or other, known criminal. And you're just investigating the space, learning how some of the systems work and so on, talking with the various characters there. And then after that, you go home, get up, have to go to the office to do some kind of, not interview, but I don't know. And you have to get your implants fixed because they're being wonky, but the money you were given, you spend it on this drug because you have these bad headaches and you just needed the drug. So all you have is 20 credits left. And so after leaving your apartment, you have to go down this city block and talk to literally everyone until you find someone who can give you a tip to get to where you want to go, to a shady fucking dealer to get your implants fixed on the cheap. But you go and you just talk to maybe 20 people all the way down this block. Maybe you'd be smarter than me, and you'd figure, hey, there are all these people here to talk to. I bet if I just go to the very end of the block and skip all these people, the actual person I'm supposed to talk to will be there. Well, how the fuck am I supposed to know that? I just talk to everyone hoping that maybe someone soon will fucking give me some help, and not the literal last person on this block who I can interact with. But that's how it went. It may not have been the literal last person. There may have been 2 people left, but it was close to the last person. And I spent about an hour doing all this, doing a little bit of detective work at the beginning, but most of it walking down this fucking block, talking to people who just said a bunch of bullshit that didn't matter. And the writing wasn't great. So I'm just experiencing all this whatever writing, wasting my time, eventually finding the shady back dealer, getting them to do their shit. And it's just like, what am I here for? It's just a waste of my time. So after that, I was like, no, I don't care what else is left. You gave me a taste of combat. Didn't like that. And the tedium you put me through, really didn't like that. So that is my brief experience with Neon Blood. Next is Universe for Sale, which is a very narrative-centric, seeming, side-scrolling, point-and-click adventure type of game. There may be some gameplay elements later, but I played it for an hour-ish, and I'm disappointed in my lack of interest in the writing specifically. There is some interesting stuff about the story, which is under the conceit of a mother telling her daughter a bedtime story, I guess. And it features this man who had the skin stripped off his body as part of some cult, and he had his head removed, but he has a skull head but just no neck. It's a very interesting design, and I'm kind of curious about him as a character. And he visits with this young lady who can craft universes. I don't know if she can craft universes out of everything, anything, or just tea, but there's some interesting stuff going on there. But the actual writing is not great. When the mother is reading the storybook before you are transported into the world, taking control of those characters, it's bad children's book type writing. It's very, very bad. And the rest of the writing is just, it's not grabbing me. And with it being such a narrative-centric game, that really has to do all of the work. Again, there may be gameplay elements down the road, and I think there are just looking at the achievements. But it bums me out because there are some interesting aspects to the story, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous game. It has beautiful hand-drawn art. The color, the lighting, the line work, like it's just a beautiful, beautiful game with very simple but well implemented animations that get the point across in how they need to. It's a bummer because I love the look of it. I like some of the elements it's putting out there, but it just didn't come together in a way that kept me engrossed and made me want to keep playing more. It's something I could eventually go back to, maybe, but at this point in time, with so many things on my plate and things to play for various things, it just didn't do enough to say I'm worthy of your time right now, which is a shame. That is Universe for Sale. Smells Like a Mushroom is an action platformer where the action in the form of shooting mostly is not that great, and then the platforming is even worse. And it has a very obnoxious sense of humor and writing that tries to be funny and cheeky, but falls flat most of the time, while not really even utilizing the potential punniness it could go for with all of the vegetable humor it's trying to do. You play a carrot, and there was some line about, hey, you're Mrs. Carrot, you barely look 24, some shit like that. You gotta go home and water the kids because they're plants and they need watering to grow, because that's how plants grow. Great. Voice acting's whatever. The art style is fine. It looks like a PS2 game, which is, I don't say that negatively, because there is a charm to that. It reminds me of stuff like Fur Fighters, if you remember that game. I remember that. I remember thinking, oh man, this game looks awesome back in the PS2 days. But it doesn't play well. Boss fights are incredibly tedious. Most of the time it's fairly easy, but then boss fights just go on and on. Not in a way that they're super difficult, but just dull and repetitive, and are the kind of things that go on so long that you end up making a mistake just because you're so bored and want to get it over with that you lose the thread of what you should be doing. That smells like a mushroom. The Legend of Cyber Cowboy is kind of a rogue-like-ish, like a Binding of Isaac, where it's a top-down shooter and you're going from room to room, eventually finding a boss room. There are shops that you can purchase better weapons, and it's a twin-stick shooter that has a nice look to it, fine pixel graphics, but it's so slow, and I've often talked about this with twin-stick shooters. If even at the default level you're just so slow to start, I find it really hard to enjoy those games because I feel so weak in the action, and even the opponents are, it's a really dull way to start every run. And if I can't upgrade things over time, if there isn't a roguelite element to it where I can gradually with runs earning some kind of currency, increase the speed of my bullets or something that will make it more pleasurable from the start, there has to be something else there to hook me, whether it's great art or I don't know. Because I struggled even with something like Vampire Survivors, getting into that at first. And this is just, there's nothing special here in a genre that is pretty packed. There are more than their fair share of games in this style. But that is The Legend of Cyber Cowboy, and then I already said Self-Delusion. Forgot to check it out, but I know that it wouldn't be my thing because it's not exactly my genre. When I looked at it, like, oh wait, this is one of those, and yeah. So that'll do it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. A short one, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would be fine if every episode was around this time. Or maybe they get longer when I start rambling on in the opening bits more, if I do that, and so on and so forth. So, yeah. That will do it. As always, not as always, I mean, it is as always, but I am, of course, your host, Mark Kuznez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can join. Yeah, well, you could join, but you could support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you get access to a monthly Q&A, the occasional watch party. We just had our first real full watch party watching Dodgeball, an Underdog Story, a movie I still enjoy quite a bit to this day. And what the next one will be, I don't know. When it'll be, I don't know. But we finally made it happen. Had a relatively good time after some early hiccups in getting the audio to come through. But looking forward to doing more of those. In addition to the monthly Q&A, though, and watch parties, there are fancy Discord roles, a private Discord channel, and other random drops here and there depending on your tier. Or you can just support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, Twitch, and so much more. Twitch is where I'll be streaming, not on YouTube, because it just makes more sense to stream on Twitch. And also because of the casual nature in which I want to stream. But you can find links to all that jazz and more over at pxsausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have both a wonderful rest of a day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, a lovely rest of your week, and a wonderful weekend. And of course, I hope you had a lovely end of 2024, and I hope you have a even lovelier start to 2025, and that your 2025 is just a fantastic year full of nothing but highs and no lows. And if you have to have some lows, I hope they're pretty high lows. I hope they're just below the midpoint, but mostly highs. But in rhyming with highs, you know what does rhyme with highs? Bye. And you know what I like to say at this time? You know. Bye.
It's go time, go daddy. It's go time, go daddy.